Turn Me On, Episode 5. Back with a next story and an apology. This episode should be up weeks ago, but technical difficulties. Something creating a weird background noise in my audio that making me crazy, so this is the 5th time I am recording this episode because I so can't stand the noise I couldn't even properly take in the previous attempts for last share. So if you're hearing this, thank the universe something solved so this episode could happen. So episode 5, starting with a few words for my gremlins. Amaya. It is I, Captain Vegetable, with my carrots and my celery. Eating crunchy vegetables is good for me, and it's good for you, so eat them too for teeth so strong your whole life long. Eat celery and carrots by the bunch. 3 cheers for me, Captain Vegetable. Crunch, crunch, crunch. And you should be glad I ain't try to sing horns and ting, because mess. Also, Elliot says sometimes when he listens while other things happening around him, my croaky frogs might be a little too loud for him to hear properly. So far, nobody else seemed to find so, but I say let me check. So whoever listening, drop me a comment now. Let me know how you feel about my cookies, and or if you're hearing weird white noise underneath. Let me make sure the problem truly solved and I not just mama guying myself because the gremlins buff me for taking so long with this episode and I want it done. And finally, the original gremlin. A warning that this episode is the story you say you don't like, so you might want to skip this one. This piece was published in PREE last year. Waves up to 2 meters in open waters and less than 1 meter in sheltered areas. She was born the Carnival Tuesday David Rudder win everything. February 11th, 1986, exactly 30 years after Fred himself. Rudder take home Young King, Calypso Monarch, and Road March. And Ash Wednesday, Fred and Ma, of course, bring home Zoraya. I was 7. I wanted a dog. I was allergic and couldn't and knew it, but that reality did nothing to endear her to my 7-year-old self, which knew only that she was no substitute. Plus, I was nonplussed by her immediate default status as best birthday gift ever. That wasn't fair. Far as my precocious mind knew about baby making, she ain't do nothing for that rank. I started watching my mother with slight suspicion. Zoraya was everybody's favorite except mine. All I see was a fat, bawling, helpless little brat. Later, an annoying intrusion. Later, more annoying tag-along. I tried selling her to strangers who stopped to say how beautiful she was. People stand up next to us in the grocery line. Family and friends commenting how much she looked just like her father. Seeing her eye in his face squeezed closed. His stubborn mouth tight, jaws pressing hard, her not wanting to cry, not again before eyes, tear duct's throat, had chance to recover from the last rounds, not before she'd get us there and could park and not have to study blurry vision. And I realized I don't actually know how Fred felt about tattoos. We never talked that. He never say, so I assume he do business and now have to wonder if he was disappointed in us the whole time and just as say. He was a man like that. Might decide to just say nothing. And it ain't go change nothing. Same reason I was never sure if he happened to look through the kitchen window between the gap in the curtains in just the right timing before I heard the metallic warning of his keys to see the 2 brown hop spread of Kevin Campbell's Bamsey tents as he thrust what felt like his whole self into me without so much as a sheet under the small of my back, inverted and rubbing against the ground with my legs over his shoulders, acquiring a burn I didn't know I'd have to explain to Ma, who always chooses to ask, to say, to demand, to tell. With Fred, you might never know, but I am damn sure I will never be the daughter my mother wants. Even if I wanted to, I don't think I can. Yard fowl, road fowl, and potong alike still unusually quiet this St. James morning. I notice how many cars whooshing through the still dewy dampness and how early the jamming really starts. Birds hailing by the time we wake, belly and hand call by the smell of the downstairs neighbor breakfast, long before I make out sounds of accumulating morning rush on the main road a block outside our louvers, the pan tuner adding his work's monotonous music to the early birds and green parrots taking off from the next neighbor tree to leave the yard in a scream of feathers and furious voices. A few cocks finally remember themselves and rouse the dogs by the time we get in the car and she bonks the starter. The rest of the neighborhood waking to a day already deafening by anywhere else standards. Nowhere loud like the tropics. Here a cacophony of sounds, sights, and smells constantly clamor, competing for attention. This morning's relative quiet remind me of going toko when we were small. Half asleep in the back of the yellow mini I later never understand how all a Fred frame could fold up and fit into. I would see photos and dust off my memories and still not quite believe because life had more recent corroboration of his bigness than the capacity of the car, a mini, at least until these last years. I shake my head, wanting to remember the him he was before he stopped being himself. Tack back to those Toko drives, waking up and leaving home early, feeling the quiet wetness of the world. Quieter place then. Even we were a quieter people then. We would pull out of the yard in the still darkness, embarking on a secret journey, one of less than a handful of cars on the road that hour in them days. Feels like forever ago instead of just a generation or two. Going east deeper into the sun so it's impossible to sleep again, highway run out and come down to barely paved road, one lane, either direction, through small villages breaking up long swaths of bush. Oh, seriously, who's really go for a tattoo this hour of the morning, Dread? Like you even know the hour. I know it's early o'clock. And you the busy one, look, I only here for a week and this is the time the work fall 3 a week, so is now. Besides, first clients of the day, we getting him fresh before stupid people kill his creative spirit. And you ain't even had to be properly awake yet because you ain't driving, so what are you complaining about? Besides, you was a morning person, ain't? Fitting. Yeah, but it's about how I walk in the rest of today after I get joke. What happened where you putting it? Right in hand, so... backup spot? I think none yet, we go see. Although post-tattoo come rum and post-rum might be a no-walk zone. She shakes her head, laughs. She seems the older sibling, practical, sensible. She would have had a contingency spot. Probably does. People make that mistake all the time when they don't take us for each other. You would think 7 years head start would make that impossible, but character is something else, Fred used to say. I put it down to Zariah being taller, maybe more serious looking, like Fred. Not that he didn't have a sense of humor, but he was a serious-minded sort who thought too much. Something I wish I didn't inherit because it only leads to insomnia and heartache. Something else I wish I didn't inherit. Even nights noisy in the tropics. When I reach double digits, I start sitting at the top of the landing in the wee hours, straining to mako the parents' late-night talk over crickets and croaking cokies, instead of reading Fred's books in my dark bed by weak light wandering in through those drawn curtains. And years later, when I tiptoe downstairs to spy him sitting staring blankly at the TV watching he at 3 a.m., I understand. Smart is a curse. The more you know, the more you have to worry about, the less your brain could rest. I wonder what he would think about us actually getting up this early to do this for him in his absence. Probably, that ain't gonna change nothing. Try getting up early to change the world. Fred was a man like that. I was studying for months what mark to get to keep him with me, the him that gave me myself, teach me to read and write and love. And it hard trying to think about something for a person who not here, and towards the end was barely here even when he was. I've been thinking about what was important to him, What's important to me did he teach me? What we would have be without him? I flick an eye back at Zariah, feel bad for a moment for making her be the adult when I know how shitty it is when all you want is to curl up in a silent ball or weep or scream or whatever you need to do to get through, but nobody else in the situation prepared or capable, and suddenly your own survival depend on you keeping it together. We never even talk about what we intend to get when we talk about this morning. Never cross our minds because we both know nobody opinion could deter either of us from getting exactly what we want. So we might as well wait and see idea executed. It's our way to each do it our own way, always. Fred daughters. We could have stayed children longer, dream longer, deeper, without the realities of life rushing in before young minds ready, before children ready to parent. We might have learned the lesson about how your friends will take you but they're going to bring you back, and the dangers of excess, indulgence, and escapism the hard way. Not that Fred way was easy, but maybe learning vicariously watching him still less painful than learning through your own fuck-ups. At least that's what I tell Zariah. He is how he is to make us be better. Zariah pull into the yard, kill the engine, and fall apart. I don't ask. Don't need to. We both know this ain't no celebration, much as we might say so. Out loud we celebrate him, his life, our lives through him. But this is a requiem. But this is our way. Me and Zariah always do it each our own way. As we father is we so. I extend a tissue in her peripheral vision, suddenly feeling dark, quiet, very much the big sister. Nobody allowed to make my little sis cry, except me. I wanted a dog. Zariah was a huge, screaming mess of constantly stinking diapers I wanted no part of. I tried to drown her a few times, concocted elaborate, outrageous lies to scare her when she keeps surviving, once gloriously, both simultaneously. If you put the armband floaty things on your ankles, you could walk on the water like Jesus. Call her stink bottom in public like it was her regular home name. Make her as miserable as my imagination could conjure tactics for. Her thriving in spite of me eventually win my respect. That was before I realized she's looked up to me. Not as smart as I thought. You don't think about big sisterness as a thing that happens to you. You have no choice in the matter, no control over that situation. All my efforts to exert control in all of them years of resenting her unnecessary presence never once yet render her dead. An evening, sitting on the gallery, watching sun plummeting faster than the lingering dusk ever suggests, as is the way here. Drinking tea, talking about finishing school, her high school, me degree. Becoming friends, finally. And she comment on the tropical twilight, how long it lasts after the sun dive out, how quiet the light seemed to make the place feel. And I tell her, nah man, it's still, but this place always have noise. Directing her ear beyond our yard to the neighbor down the block playing tobacco music hard, while the next one on the other side cussway her nowherean pseudo-man again, maxis passing in the distance, horns blaring, hard pong blasting, monkeys chattering the breadfruit tree in the empty overgrown lot opposite where the corner boys go to hold a meddy, smoke curling up and around and through branches that bore the bounty of our boy days, king orange, mango boat, julienne starch, plums galore for chow. Her eyes open big as her ears take it all in, then turn back to study me, and I see the surprised admiration when she say, "You make out all that just so. You as good as Pops." I wish. But then she know how terrifyingly soon after the mad scramble to my room and frantic hiding of Kevin Campbell, Fred called my name. I finish navigating a big jersey over head and arms and step into the corridor, carefully pulling the door closed at my heels until I feel the soft, reassuring click. Do my level best to listen and respond to whatever he's saying about wherever Ma say, but barely maintaining focus, trying desperately to ignore the warm, slow trickle of Kevin Campbell down my inner thigh, running into the valley behind my knee and dangerously low down the back of my calf. Please finish talk before I puddle. She don't know about the abortion that soon follow. Absolute secret for fear of Fred's disappointment. Don't know how he really find out about that first tattoo bouncing up in the kitchen when I swear I home alone and come out in my panty for water. His raised eyebrow and silence. My understanding he wouldn't say a word because I didn't go brave and take in front and tell him I do it. She don't know the repeat letdown that is my real self. The distance of disappointment between Fred's dreams and me. I should not be looked up to. The day real now. We here sitting in the tattoo man yard, money in pocket, ideas in hand, at least one of us. I in two minds for the first time, but still ask, you ready? She nods. Waves up to 2 meters in open waters and less than 1 meter in sheltered areas. Written and voiced by Alicia F. Bartels. Audio mixed and mastered by Frostblaze 868 for Dark Rain Productions. And with thanks to Josh Gray of Bumpin' Fresh Industries for literally making this possible. Thanks for listening. Walk good.